The world before the flood of Noah, known as the antediluvian period, was unlike anything we can imagine today. It was a time of extreme corruption and unprecedented wickedness, but it also held mysteries that continue to fascinate scholars and theologians. According to the Bible, humanity had descended into chaos, prompting God to send the flood as a means of cleansing the earth. But what exactly made this time so strange and unique? The combination of divine intervention, supernatural beings, and human innovation paints a picture of a world both fascinating and terrifying. One of the most mysterious aspects of the pre-flood world is the mention of the Nephilim in Genesis 6:4. These giants, or mighty men of old, are described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. This cryptic passage has sparked countless debates about who these beings were. Some believe they were fallen angels who took human wives, while others think they were powerful rulers or hybrid beings. Regardless of their origins, the Nephilim were a striking feature of this ancient world, adding an element of the supernatural to an already strange era. Another strange aspect of the pre-flood world is its reportedly advanced knowledge and technology. While the Bible doesn't provide explicit details, ancient texts and traditions suggest that humanity possessed incredible skills during this time. Some speculate that the antediluvian people built massive structures or harnessed natural forces in ways that seem impossible to us today. Could this knowledge have been passed down by divine beings or corrupted angels? The idea of a highly advanced but morally bankrupt civilization adds another layer of mystery to this era. The longevity of life before the flood is another remarkable feature. According to the Bible, people lived for centuries, with figures like Methuselah reaching 969 years of age. This extended lifespan allowed for generations of knowledge and culture to flourish. But why did they live so long? Some theologians believe it was due to a protective water canopy that surrounded the earth, shielding humans from harmful radiation and creating ideal living conditions. This unique environment made the pre-flood world drastically different from the one we know today. The moral corruption of humanity is often cited as the primary reason for the flood. Genesis 6:5 describes how every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This extreme wickedness wasn't limited to humans but extended to all creation. Many believe that this corruption was amplified by the influence of fallen angels or other supernatural beings. The breakdown of moral and social order created a world filled with violence, immorality, and chaos. Animal behavior before the flood also seems to have been different. Some traditions suggest that animals and humans had a closer relationship, possibly even communicating in ways we cannot comprehend. The story of the serpent speaking to Eve in the Garden of Eden hints at a time when such interactions might not have been entirely out of place. This connection between humans and animals may have been lost after the flood, adding another layer of intrigue to the pre-flood world. The geographic and climatic conditions of the earth were also vastly different. The Bible implies a lush and fertile world, described as a kind of paradise. Some scholars propose that the earth had a more uniform climate, with no extreme weather patterns. The water canopy theory suggests that the earth was surrounded by a layer of water vapor that created a greenhouse effect, maintaining perfect conditions for life. This unique environment would have made the pre-flood world unrecognizable to us today. The pre-flood world. Genesis 6 speaks of the sons of God taking human wives and producing offspring. This interaction between the heavenly and earthly realms was not just mysterious, but also deeply troubling to God. These unions likely led to the spread of forbidden knowledge, corrupting humanity even further. The existence of hybrid beings, such as the Nephilim, suggests a blending of divine and human characteristics, resulting in a society unlike anything seen before or since. Another strange feature of the pre-flood world was the incredible violence that consumed the earth. Genesis 6:11 says, "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence." This widespread chaos may have been the result of humanity's moral decay, coupled with the influence of supernatural beings. Wars, oppression, and unbridled selfishness defined this era, creating a society so wicked that it necessitated divine intervention through the flood. Ancient texts and extra-biblical accounts, such as the Book of Enoch, provide further details about the pre-flood world. They describe fallen angels teaching humans forbidden knowledge, such as weapon making, astrology, and sorcery. While these accounts are not part of the biblical canon, they offer intriguing insights into the cultural and spiritual climate of the time. The dissemination of this knowledge may have accelerated the moral decline of humanity, leading to the ultimate judgment. The spiritual state of humanity was another key element of the pre-flood world. Despite being created in God's image, people turned away from him, embracing idolatry and self-indulgence. The Bible highlights the lack of righteousness during this time, with Noah standing out as the only man who walked with God. This spiritual rebellion wasn't just personal. It infected entire communities, making the world ripe for destruction. The size and scale of pre-flood creatures, including animals and possibly humans, is another area of speculation. Some believe that creatures were larger and more formidable due to the ideal living conditions of the time. Fossil records and legends of giant animals and humans fuel this theory. Whether or not these accounts are accurate, the pre-flood world is often imagined as a place of enormous creatures and extraordinary biodiversity. Another strange aspect of the pre-flood world was its apparent lack of accountability. People lived for hundreds of years, amassing wealth, knowledge, and influence, but there seemed to be no immediate consequences for their wickedness. This long period of unchecked sinfulness likely emboldened humanity, making them believe they could live without fear of divine judgment. The sudden and catastrophic arrival of the flood shattered this illusion. The ark itself stands as a testament to the strangeness of the pre-flood era. While the Bible describes its construction in detail, the sheer scale of the ark and the logistics of gathering and housing animals remain a subject of fascination. The ark was not just a vessel, but a symbol of hope and salvation in a world that had lost its way. Its creation required faith and obedience, qualities that were rare in this corrupt age. The pre-flood world also saw a unique relationship between humans and the natural environment. With fertile lands, abundant resources, and ideal living conditions, humanity had every opportunity to thrive. Yet instead of stewarding the earth, they exploited it, contributing to their moral and spiritual downfall. This disregard for the natural world reflects humanity's broader rebellion against God's intentions. Finally, the most significant and sobering aspect of the pre-flood world is its ultimate fate. Despite its strangeness, innovation, and uniqueness, the world was destroyed because of its complete corruption. The flood serves as a reminder of God's judgment and mercy. While the pre-flood world was extraordinary in many ways, it also stands as a warning about the consequences of turning away from God. The story of Noah's Ark and the flood is not just about destruction, but also about renewal. After the waters receded, the world was given a fresh start, free from the corruption of the pre-flood era. This moment of renewal underscores the importance of faith, obedience, and a commitment to living in harmony with God's will. The lessons of the pre-flood world are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. The pre-flood world's technological and cultural advancements are also shrouded in mystery. Some ancient texts and theories suggest that early humanity possessed knowledge and skills far beyond what we might expect from that era. From building massive structures to crafting tools and weapons, the pre-flood world may have been more advanced than traditionally believed. However, instead of using their gifts for good, humanity used this knowledge for selfish and destructive purposes, hastening their downfall. One fascinating aspect of the pre-flood narrative is the suggestion that humans lived significantly longer lives, with many figures in Genesis surpassing 900 years of age. This longevity may have allowed people to amass great wisdom or, conversely, prolong their capacity for wickedness. The Bible doesn't explain why lifespans were so extended before the flood, but this phenomenon underscores the uniqueness of that world and the drastic changes brought about by the flood. The presence of giants, referred to as the Nephilim, in the pre-flood world adds another layer of intrigue. Described in Genesis 6 as the offspring of the sons of God and human women, the Nephilim were described as mighty men of old, men of renown. These beings were likely larger, stronger, and possibly more intelligent than ordinary humans, making them figures of both fascination and fear. Their existence contributed to the corruption that led to the flood. The relationship between humans and animals was also likely different in the pre-flood world. The harmony described in Eden may have still lingered to some extent, though it would have been corrupted by sin. Some speculate that animals were less fearful of humans, which might explain how Noah managed to gather and house them in the ark. This dynamic would have shifted dramatically after the flood, when God instilled fear of humans in animals. Genesis 9:2. The moral corruption of the pre-flood world extended to every aspect of society, from personal relationships to broader community dynamics. Genesis 6:5 reveals that every intention of the thoughts of humanity's heart was only evil continually. This pervasive wickedness created a society where violence, exploitation, and injustice were rampant. It is a sobering reminder of what happens when humanity turns away from God's guidance. The environmental conditions of the pre-flood world may also have been vastly different. Some theories suggest that a canopy of water vapor surrounded the Earth, creating a greenhouse effect that contributed to a lush, tropical climate. This ideal environment could explain the long lifespans and the abundance of resources available to humanity. The destruction of this canopy during the flood radically altered the Earth's climate and ecosystem. Another unique feature of the pre-flood world was its lack of written law. Unlike the post-flood era, where God established covenants and laws, the pre-flood world operated without formal guidelines. People were expected to follow their conscience and adhere to God's will, but their collective failure highlights the necessity of divine instruction and accountability. This lack of structure contributed to the chaos and moral decay of the time.